Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Can you listen to me? Yes, please tell me you can listen to me.
Yes,
Yes,
teacher.
teacher.
Yes, we can listen to you, teacher.
All right.
Yes, teacher.
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right. So I hope you're well during this week that we haven't seen each other or we haven't talked each other. So today, as you can see on the slide, yeah, we are going to pass to the next the next topic related to teaching and speaking. That is the stages of a speaking lesson and awareness raising activities. Then we're going to analyze what does it mean, no? What does awareness raising activities mean? All right, so don't worry if you couldn't understand so well this term. All right, so as you know, and as we have seen before, when we talk about stages of a speaking lesson, as I told you a lot of times, we have three major stages, no? The pre, the while, and the pause, right? But today we're going to change just a little bit these names. The purposes are similar, yeah, the purposes are similar, but now we're going to change a little bit these names. As we know, the pre, the while, and the post. So when we talk about speaking, we're going to analyze other aspects in order to acquire, as we have seen before, no? In order to acquire fluency, accuracy. So that's it, that we are going to change some names of these stages, all right? So, but first of all, we are going to make here a feedback, what we did the last session. Can you remember what we did the last session? What we talked about the
Ways of
last session?
the the 5 ways of teaching, I think.
Yeah, the 5 ways of teaching. Yeah, any other idea? 5 ways of teaching.
About the difference, teacher, between speak and reading.
Speaking and reading, all right, or writing, no, maybe.
Reading.
Yeah, all right, what else, what else? Any other idea, any other idea?
Speaking in another language.
Aha, yes, speaking in another language. And what are we going to use in order to speak in another language? We talked about this term, remember, strategy. Communication strategy. Can you remember? What is a communication strategy?
Yes, teacher.
Aha, tell me please.
Um, um, reduction strategy. Strategies is scaling or time.
Aha, yeah.
Achievement or compensatory strategies.
All right, yes, you're right. So these are the different types of strategies, no? But what is the meaning, the definition of a strategy, communication strategy? What is that?
It's like a way of method or like a more efficient way of teaching something.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is related to teaching, no? But here, communicate. Here we're talking about communication. When we want to communicate with another person, and specifically in another language, no? Not in our native language, in another language. So can you remember? Can you remember? We analyzed some definitions. So let's see it. Let's see it. Don't worry, don't worry. For example, we talked about that this is a plan, remember. A strategy is a plan. So we are going to plan. What are we going to plan? We are going to plan how to solve some problems related to a communicative goal. And not specifically, we're not going to use not specifically linguistic knowledge. We're going to use other kind of knowledge, all right? So we're not going to use specifically the linguistic tools. we're going to use other kind of tools in order to communicate. Remember, the purpose of this is to communicate. So we're going to do some activities, some actions, some procedures, as you can see here, in order to make up for gaps in the knowledge and skill with a second or foreign language they are learning. So don't forget, this is a strategy. Communication strategy. It's a conscious plan. Remember, it's a conscious plan that we want to make up to communicate successfully. And we are not going to use specifically linguistic tools to do that. We're going to use other kind of activities or other kind of situations. So as your partner says, and here we're going to check it up all together. Some of these strategies are related to avoidance and reduction strategies. So you have here message abandonment, topic avoidance. So when we change the topic, maybe we're not familiar with that topic or we are not familiar with the message or we want to say, so we change it, all right? So we change it to another message or to another topic. The other one is gaining strategies. So you use here hesitation devices. No, you're going to use some hesitation devices. Now, let me see, maybe you can remember how to say some words. So you use these kind of strategies, not to gain time, to give you time to think what is the word that you want to say or what is the message that you want to say, all right? The other ones are the achievement or compensatory strategies. So we have circumcolusion. Can you remember what was circumcolution? What was it about? Circumcolution? Anybody? Circumcolution? This is a technical name, no? Because we have a more common name to do this. And we usually use this strategy to communicate when you don't know specifically how to say the word. So what do? What do you do? In order to communicate, remember, these strategies are used to communicate with other people in another language. Sometimes we use it in our mother tongue, but these are most used specifically when you speak in another language, no? In this case, in English. So circumcolution, nobody can remember what is it about? Circumcolution?
Is the use of many words?
Is the use of?
Many words?
Yeah, you use words. So I'm gonna give you an example. Let's see. Oh yeah, this thing is used to open the door. I can't remember exactly the word, but this thing is used to open the door. So I am circumculating. So what am I doing? What am I doing? This thing is used to open the doors. Oh, it's a tool which is used to open doors. So what am I doing? What am I expressing?
Maybe a suggestion?
Paraphrasing.
Yes, that's it. You're paraphrasing. You're giving a definition, remember? Yeah, remember this. Circumcolution means when you describe or exemplify something, no? An object or an action, all right? So in other words, you paraphrase, you use other words to explain about this, all right? So don't forget it. Then you have approximation where you use some alternative terms related to the words that you want to say. Use of all-purpose words when you use one word a lot of times, no? So you use a lot of times a word. This is a use of all-purpose words. And then you have the other ones which are word coinage, related words in our language, in the mother tongue. Then you have the non-linguistic or paralinguistic tools using mimics, gestures, facial expressions. And then you have the most common, that is the translation, for recognizing that you use some words adjusting to the L2 phonologically. Code switching, when you use the two languages, you're speaking in English, but then you insert some words in Spanish, and then you go back to the English, no? So for example, we call this a Spanglish, no? When we use some words in Spanish, some words in English, so you combine. So that's why we say code switching. And the other one is appealed for help. No, when you ask for clarification, oh, teacher, excuse me, what does this word mean? Or how do you pronounce this word? No, so you're asking to the teacher or maybe to your partner. No? So don't forget here, remember, these are the communication strategies that we usually use when we are speaking in another language, in a second language. We're going to use this. Some of them are used also in the native language, but we use most of them in the second language acquisition, all right? So, the last class, I gave you 2 questions to be answered today, and we are going to discuss. Can you remember those questions? And these 2 questions are related to this general question. What do we need to speak? Can you tell me, what do we need to speak?
We need 2 or more people.
Yeah, all right. Interaction.
Yeah, interaction.
To know the topic it's about.
To know the topic. All right.
What was the result?
Excuse me again, please.
Maybe to need a specific idea.
Yeah, the specific.
A topic, a general topic.
A general topic.
Yeah, a topic or a general topic.
All right, all right. What else? What else? What do we need?
Communicate something.
In another language, remember, in another language.
We need to know some words or fluency
Right.
in another language.
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
What else? What else do we need to speak in another language?
To know the rules, the grammar.
What strategy to use?
How to use.
The rules, grammar. There was another one who was trying
What strategy
strategies, yes.
to use, teacher?
Excellent. We talk about different.
What strategy to use?
Yes, what strategy to use, so you have to decide. Huh? What else? What else? Any other one?
Handling a language well.
All right, you have to manage the language well. It's related to the vocabulary, a great range of vocabulary, no? A good range of vocabulary, a good management of the rules, grammar, structure, patterns, fluency is related to the intonation. All right. What else? What else? Anybody else? Indeed, assist.
What is the result?
Okay, yeah, all right. Gabriel says to transmit ideas. No? So this is the purpose. No? We speak in order to transmit ideas, messages, thoughts, beliefs.
Maybe what we really need to have to speak is a receptor, someone that can actually understands the message.
Yeah, to be clear, maybe, yes, this is what.
Yeah, somehow, maybe. Like my idea was sending the message to a concrete person.
Yeah, okay, that's right. All right, so you give me some ideas in order to analyze what we need to speak in another language. So let's see here. Look at this cartoon. I'm gonna give you some minutes to read this cartoon. And then you have to tell me about this cartoon. Give me your opinion, no? This is a cartoon related to Tarzan, this famous character, no? Tarzan and Jane. So Tarzan, if you notice in the first part, okay, how do you do? My name is Tarzan and I believe you are known as Jane. Then allow me to introduce myself. I'm Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, and you? And then the third one, you must be Jane. I'm Tarzan. It's a pleasure to meet you. So he's thinking, no? He's thinking what he's going to say to Jane when they meet each other, right? Yes? He's analyzing. Oh yeah, maybe I'm going to say, how do you do? My name is Tarzan, I believe you. Oh no, maybe allow me to introduce myself. I'm Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, and you? But they change. No, you must be Jane. I'm Tarzan. It's a pleasure to meet you. And then on the 4, notice, there she is. And what happened with Tarzan? Me, Tarzan, you, Jane. Damn, he's embarrassed. He's totally embarrassed. So what happened with Tarzan?
He doesn't have a practice speaking to the other person. It happens with many languages. When people want to communicate something, they have the rules and everything inside their heads. But when they have to speak, they don't have the practice enough to speak and to produce the sentences speaking, and they can't communicate the right idea. And maybe he's nervous too.
Yes, excellent. That's it. No, remember that we were talking about the last sessions. No, there are some factors that influence in our fluency. No, cognitive factors, social factors, and affective factors. Right? As your partner said, maybe he was so nervous, but the other ones is that he knows. Notice, he knows what he wants to say, but when it has the opportunity to speak, he can't. Why? Because he has the linguistic competence, so he knows about the grammar, the intonation, the discourse markers, the genre, the register, all the things that we talked about the last class, remember, right? So all the things that we must know about the language, he knows about it. But when he wants to talk, he can't, he forgot. So what's happening here? He hasn't got a good performance. So he hasn't got the communicative competence. He has the linguistic competence, but he hasn't got the communicative competence. Notice here the difference. So he couldn't perform that. What he knows, he couldn't do it. So when we speak, we have these two aspects, remember? So most of you told me about grammar, vocabulary, intonation, or fluency. But the other one, as your partner says, that she told us about related to the practice, we call this aspect like this. Notice here, we have 2 questions. The last class I gave you these 2 questions. What knowledge is required for speaking, and how can this knowledge, this information, this linguistic information be made available for use? So here we have these 2 aspects. Sometimes we focus more on the first one. Yeah, in order to speak, you have to know the grammar, the vocabulary, the intonation to get fluency. So, but we forgot the second aspect. And what is it about? Let's see. Knowledge, as you know, this is related to the first question, yeah? Knowledge and availability. So we have these 2 aspects, the knowledge and availability. So what do they mean? Knowledge is the linguistic information, all the things that you told me. The grammar, the pronunciation, the patterns, the vocabulary, all right, the markers, the linkers. So all of this is the linguistic information. But what happened with this linguistic information? We have to, or we need to have this linguistic information ready to be used. So we call this availability, all right? Availability. So these two aspects are involved when we want to speak. We have to, or we need to have some knowledge about the language, but this knowledge must be ready to use in order to have this fluency, no? And it happens to Tarzan. He had the knowledge, but he didn't have this information ready to be used. It depends on many factors, no? Maybe he was so nervous, or maybe he couldn't have enough practice to do that, all right? Or maybe, remember that we talked about this too, the monitoring aspect, he was checking, no, this is not the correct expression. No, I need to use the second one. No, this second is not correct too. The third one. So when you do that, this is self-monitoring. No, you are checking yourself. No, this is not correct. This better. No, this is not correct. This is better. So remember, he changed 3 times what he wanted to say. So he is monitoring. He is doing a self-monitoring. And when you use this, or you overuse, remember this term, when you overuse this aspect, you don't get fluency. You cannot speak, all right? You cannot speak. So notice these two aspects, all right? Remember these two questions. We are going back. Now we are going back. What knowledge is required for speaking, and how can this knowledge be available for use? So now we're going to do something interesting. I'm going to divide you into groups. Yeah, let me see here. Let me see if I can do that. Well, I don't have this tool activated. Let me see, let me check. Oh no, I think I don't have this tool activated to work in groups. Let me see. No. Well, so we are going to change because I was supposed that we have this tool activated, but I think it's not activated. All right, because I want you to work in groups, but it is not possible according to this characteristic of this Zoom. Yeah? So we're going to change that. We're going to do it as a general group. All right. So let's start with the first question. Remember that the first question. Oh, please with your microphones. All right, thank you. Don't forget about your microphones. All right, okay. Oh yeah, Luis, it's related to working in groups, the breakout rooms. I don't have this option activated, I think so. I was searching, but it's not here. No.
Go to the menu on the right side where you see participants. There might be 3 dots that are all together. there you may have the option of splitting into small groups.
Yes, yes, I know that, but I can't see this one. No, there is no, because here you have the breakout rooms, but it's not activated.
Are you as a host of the meeting?
Yeah, yes, I'm the host.
Because if you're the host, that should be
Yeah,
that should be activated
it should be
unless
here,
they
yes.
have.
Yes, I know that it must be here, but I can find it.
Uh-oh. Because it usually shows up in
Yeah,
on the right side, right? Right.
Yes, you're right. You're right. No,
Mm.
maybe they don't activate it because you have to activate it on the.
Yes, you have to activate it on the main
Yeah,
setting.
exactly. Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
we're going to change this kind of activity. Now we are going to do it as a group. Yeah. Remember these two questions. What knowledge is required for speaking? And how can this knowledge be made availability for use, this knowledge? So can you tell me? Let's start with the first one. You told me some of this information, this linguistic information. What knowledge is required for speaking?
Vocabulary, enough vocabulary to speak, the knowledge, basic knowledge of the rules and the order of the words.
Mm-hmm.
The main idea how to make a logical idea.
Okay, yeah, that's it. What else? What else? We're on the first question. What knowledge is required for speaking?
Maybe
To have a good memory, teacher.
A good memory. All right. Okay.
The grammar.
The grammar. The pattern, the structures. And what about the second one? How can this knowledge, this linguistic information, be made available for use? How?
As teacher, we have to give the students all the tools necessary to feel confident to speak.
That's it. That's right. What else? What else?
maybe the previous knowledge of vocabulary, grammar, and maybe as practice background, if we can say it like that.
Yeah, the background, yeah, the activity, the schemata, no? Remember? Background knowledge.
The vocabulary.
Yeah, the vocabulary is related to the first question. Remember, all the linguistic information that we have in our mind, we need to use this information to speak. But how can we make this information available to use it?
The teacher should suggest to the students one by one to speak. If they have all the necessary to speak to make from the basic sentences, they are going to dare to produce sentences. And if we congratulate them, they are going to feel confident enough to continue with the work, speaking and trying. They have to speak because this comes in all the languages, even in Quechua. They know how to understand if they don't speak, they aren't going to speak.
You mentioned one important aspect, understanding. Excellent, that's it. If they don't understand, they are not going to speak. This is one of the aspects in order to make this linguistic information available to use it. All right, that's it. So here we're going to analyze. Remember these two aspects. In order to speak, we need these two ones. The knowledge, that is the linguistic information, and this linguistic information must be ready to be used, and we call this availability. So how do we make our students develop this one to have this information ready to be used and they could speak. So let's see. Let's analyze the first aspect, the knowledge, all right? As you told me, when we talk about the knowledge, we talked about grammar. So remember that we talked about this, but as a native speakers, now as a language learner, okay? A core grammar. So grammar is essentially, but sometimes in the course books or in the test books, we have the grammar, but a written grammar. No, remember when we talk about the difference of grammar, when we talk about the written test and an oral test. So here we have these differences. No, the grammar of writing, this is a grammar of sentences, but not specifically is the grammar of utterances. All right. So we have a special difference. So the student must recognize the difference between the grammar of the written test and the grammar of the oral test. So this is one aspect of the knowledge. The other ones are the linkers. They need to use connectors. No, linkers is similar to say connectors. So you use here conjunctions. And, but, so, and also the discourse markers. So here we have, well, you know, I mean, so you use this discourse markers. So notice this is the knowledge that a student must have when they want to speak. A core vocabulary. Here, for example, you have a number, yeah? This is a number from 1,000 to 1,500 high frequency items. These will cover 90% of our day-to-day needs. Now, this is an average. No, it doesn't mean that you need to have these quantities, no? But it's advisable to have this quantity, this range of vocabulary, you know, from 1,000 to 1,500 high frequency items. So it means that the words that are used the most. No? That's why we say high frequency items. And with this information, remember, this is a linguistic information. With this information, they will cover 90% of their day-to-day needs. So remember, grammar, linkers, so discourse markers, vocabulary. The other one is a core phrase book of chunks. Can you remember what was the meaning of chunks?
Chunks, the combination of words.
Excellent, very good. A combination of words, no? Sometimes we call them or as collocation, no? Some fixed phrases or expressions. Oh, with microphones, please. Yeah, please don't forget about to activate your microphones, all right? So here you have the chunks, remember, are a combination of words, And here we include some time and place adverbials, 2 years ago, the end of the day, and also some vagueness expressions, no? Something like that, no? Something like this. So you use these vagueness expressions. They are not precise language, no? They are vague expressions, all right? So notice here, yeah, this is the notion. We have more, but remember, core grammar, linkers, a core vocabulary, a core phrase book, and also we have here strategies. They need to use some strategies. Here you use, for example, it's one of those things that, no, so remember the strategies, the communication strategies. What do you call it? For example, it's one of those things that, what kind of a strategy is this? Can you remember? The communication strategies. It's one of those things that you use to open doors. How do you call this? This strategy? No, nobody. Oh, the other one. What do you call it? What is the strategy? Communication strategies. Remember, we use these strategies when we don't know, because there will be words that we don't know or we cannot remember. So you use some strategies to communicate. For example, the first one, it's one of those things that we call this circumlocution. Remember, circumlocution. We are describing, we're exemplifying some words, some expressions because we don't know exactly how to say them, or maybe we forgot, right? So we use this strategy to continue speaking, right? And not to stop speaking. The other one, what do you call it? So this is asking for help, right? So you want to know what's this word, know what's the meaning or what's the pronunciation. So notice, the student must know strategies in order to communicate, not stop talking, all right? So apart from the grammar, apart from the vocabulary, apart from the discourse markers, linkers, and so on, they need to use these strategies. The other one or two all-purpose quoting expressions of the he said and then I said, no? It's like a reporting something, no? So this is the all-purpose quoting expressions, no? He said that he would travel to, no? So you're using these quoting expressions. The other ones is formulaic ways of performing common speech acts. Remember, speech acts are the functions. Remember this, don't forget it. The speech acts are the functions, the purposes of communication, such as greeting, thanking, promising. So they need to acquire, no, they need to know these expressions, formulaic ways, no? For example, greeting, oh, hello, my name is, no? Oh, yeah, thanking, oh, thanks a lot. Thanks for your help. So this is the formula ways, no? Performing, remember, performing these common speech acts, no? Or promise, no? When you want to promise something, how do you promise something? Oh, I promise I will, no? We use will, for example, no? So this is the formula ways. So the student must know these formula ways to different speech acts. How to express greeting, how to express thanking, how to express apologizing, how to express suggestions. So all of this, notice here the knowledge, all the knowledge that a student must have. The other knowledge or information that the student must know is the standard back channel devices. So it means that things we say when we are listening to another speaking. So it means that you are paying attention what the other person is talking to you. To show interest. No? This means to show interest. You're expressing your interest on what the other person is talking to you, and you start talking with him or with her, right? Really? You're kidding. And so we call this back channel devices, no? Standard back channel devices. The things that you say when you are listening to another person. And the other one is related to phonology. Now remember this part. The phonology, the intonation, to segment the flow of speech into meaningful units, to flag new topics and to sign on the ends of terms. No? When you goes up and goes down your voice, all right? So this is the flow of the speech. Oh yeah, you're right. Yes. Oh, what a pity. I'm so sorry. And notice how you change your intonation, all right? you're raising up or you're going down your voice, all right? So notice all this knowledge a student must have. Remember, don't forget, a core grammar, so core structure patterns, a core vocabulary, a phrase book of chunks, combination of words. They must use these course markers and linkers to connect their ideas, right? To give a sequence or organization to their ideas. Now remember that these core markers are useful to organize your ideas. Then they must use or they must know some strategies to communicate if they don't know exactly what they want to say. Also, they need to have this flow of speech, the flow of speech when they are going to talk to another person, right? So notice all the linguistic information that a student or learner must know. No, this is the knowledge. Remember, this is the knowledge, but this is not enough. As you can see here, as you could see on the cartoon, Tarzan know all about it. All right, if you notice Tarzan, know how to say different registers, different tones, different chunks, different formula ways to express a greeting. No, for example, he wanted to introduce himself to Jane, so he uses, or no, he couldn't use. He thought, he thought what he wanted to say, but when he was with Jane, he couldn't do it. So why? Because he didn't have this information ready to be used. And this is the second aspect. It's so important, availability. So what is availability? Essentially, availability is developed in three processes. We are going to analyze three processes when we talk about availability for use. The first one is the learners or students need to become aware of features of the target knowledge base. What is the meaning of aware? Could you give me a definition? Aware. Learners need to become aware of features of the target.
Conscious.
Excuse me again, please.
Informed, conscious.
Yeah. Conscious, exactly. Aware is to be conscious, all right? And this is called, remember, we are going to call this aspect, this process of availability, awareness. So the student, the learners, it must be conscious of the future of the target knowledge base. So this is the first. The second, they need to integrate this feature of the target knowledge into their existing knowledge base. So they need to integrate, all right? They need to acquire this, all right? And we call this process appropriation. They need to appropriate this feature of the target knowledge base into their existing knowledge base. And the last process involved in availability is they need to develop the capacity to mobilize these features under real-time conditions. And this is what happened to Tarzan. No? This person didn't have the capacity to mobilize, to use this knowledge into real-time speaking, real-time conditions. And we call this autonomy. All right, remember we talked about something related to this part, no? Related to automaticity, autonomy. So we have these three aspects, these three processes to make this linguistic information available for use. So learners must be conscious of the features of the target knowledge base, that is called awareness. The second, they need to integrate this future into their existing knowledge base. This is called appropriation. And the last process is, or a stage, no, here we call this also stages of a speaking process, yeah? Autonomy. So they need to develop the capacity to mobilize, to use these information or futures under real-time conditions. So these are the three processes involved when we talk about availability for use. And to ensure this availability for use, we must develop these, or we must acquire these processes into our students, right? Awareness, appropriation, and autonomy. Remember that we talked about at the beginning of the class, no? As I told you, we call also these stages of a speaking lesson, because these processes are related to activities that we are going to apply in our lesson of speaking. Don't forget that when we talk about speaking, it doesn't mean that we are going to omit the other ones. No, no, no. The other skills, no. We have a close relationship. For example, speaking is so related with listening because we need to interact. We are not going to speak, and that's it. The other person is going to listen. No, no, no. So we need to interact. So here, these two skills are so close, so related when we talk about the speaking skill, not the speaking and the listening skill. So we have these three processes, or we could say that we have these three stages of speaking. First, student must be aware, must be conscious. Then they need to appropriate this knowledge. And finally, they need to be autonomous. They need to be, or to create, some automaticity to produce this language, okay, this information, all right? So we have these three. Don't forget about these three aspects or processes or stages when we talk about speaking. Now, here, today, we are going to talk about the different activities that we are going to do in order to develop awareness in our students. That's why here says awareness raising activities. So what kind of activities are we going to use to make our students be conscious about the knowledge base, right? And let's see some of them. What does it mean? Awareness raising activities are focused on a students' knowledge gaps. Gaps is the spaces, differences, all right, that they have between what they know and what they need to know in order to speak, to have a fluency, all right? And how to help them uncover or realize it. So this is the awareness raising activities. This concept comes from the cognitivist learning theory. So here we need to acquire some knowledge in order to recognize the differences between languages or the differences between what we know and need to know. So that's why we call this term from the cognitivist learning theory, all right? So we're not going to expand on this because this is a huge topic related to the methods and theories of language acquisition, right? But the most important here is that awareness raising activities are focused on students' knowledge gaps. Remember, knowledge gaps. So they need to analyze what they know and what they need to know. Here we have three processes of awareness raising. The first one is the attention. Then we have noticing. And finally, we have the understanding. This is one of the aspects of your partner set, no? The understanding. So notice, in order to be conscious about what you are going to listen or talk, in this case, there are three processes to acquire this awareness: attention, noticing, and understanding. Let's analyze the first one, attention. What does it mean, attention?
To be interested.
Yeah, exactly that they are interested in the topic.
Yes, that's it. No? So here, students need to be alert, interested, involved, and curious. If they are going, oh, please don't forget about turning off your microphones, please. Okay, thank you. Students need to be on alert, interested, involved, and curious about what they are going to speak. If they are not interested, if they are not involved, they are not curious about what they are going to speak, they are not going to be interested in speaking. So they are going to notice features of the target skill. So they are going to be conscious. What are the features, the characteristics of the target skill? So it's very important this. You have to call the attention of your students in order to make your students identify or notice these features of the target skill. The second one is that noticing. What is noticing? What is noticing?
Understand what they are seeing or the teacher wants to say.
Yeah, this is the other one, understanding. But noticing, before understanding, they have to notice. First, the attention, to call the attention. Then, noticing. What is noticing?
To be conscious that they need to learn.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Any other idea? Noticing.
If they are catching the main topic or the main idea, if they are understanding it.
Yeah. Okay. So notice, conscious, as your partner says, conscious registering of the occurrence of some event or entity. So they must be conscious about the specific event that they are going to talk about, all right? Or the entity that they are going to talk about. So this is the noticing. Remember, a conscious registering of the occurrence of some event or entity. So this is called noticing. So this is the second process when you want to make your students aware of the speaking skills. So first, attention, then noticing. So here, students also notice the differences between their own performance and the performance of the expert, which is called noticing the gap. Now remember that we talked about a few minutes ago this word gap. It's the difference, the space between what he knows and what he needs to know, all right? Or in this case, what he does, what he speaks, and what other people speak. So what is the difference? What is the gap? What is the space between the expert, just as the expert, could be a teacher, could be another partner who has more fluency of speaking, or maybe a native speaker, no? So this is the expert. So he compares, notice, he start comparing, he realized what he needs to do to get fluency. He make a contrast, no? His own performance with the expert performance. So we call this noticing the gap, all right? Noticing the gap. So notice here, the first process is attention. The second is conscious registering of the event. It means that they are going to analyze the performance, all right? So here, this is noticing. And the last one is understanding. Understanding is the recognition of a general rule or principle or pattern. So they understand what the other person is talking and he is going to answer, to respond. All right? So this is very important. Also here, understanding means that he understands all the structure, the patterns that here says of the language, you know, that he is going to talk. Yeah? So notice here these three processes when you want to make your students be aware. Now this, remember, this is related to availability, yeah? Awareness, awareness. Then we have, what is the second? Can you remember? After awareness, what is the second? To make
No,
availability?
did know.
Awareness is the first one. The second one is?
Autonomy?
Yeah, this is the third one. The third one is autonomy. But before autonomy, they need to integrate. Remember, awareness is to be conscious. So we have attention, we have noticing, and we have understanding. This is related to awareness. The second one is to integrate. This is called it starts with the letter A.
Amplification?
No.
Oh, sorry, I'm guessing.
All right, don't worry, don't worry. What is the second one? The second one, this word is similar to Spanish. No, nobody?
King, teacher.
Yeah, remember, the second process to make available the linguistic information. Remember that we are talking about how to make available the linguistic information in order to speak. Because we analyze that sometimes we have the linguistic knowledge, but we cannot speak. Why? Because this linguistic information is not available for use. So in order to develop this availability, so we have three processes. Awareness, to be conscious, all right, about this target skill. The second one is appropriation. Remember, appropriation, to integrate what the knowledge you have with the other knowledge that you are acquiring. So you appropriate, you integrate these two knowledges. And the third one, as you told me, is the autonomy. Don't forget these three processes. But now we are just talking about awareness. And awareness is divided into three processes at the same time: attention, noticing, and understanding. So with these three aspects, we are going to develop awareness in our student in order to make available this linguistic information that they could use in order to speak. All right? So let's see here. We're going to analyze an example. Yeah? Remember, first, call attention. So you need to present, for example, this is an example, all right? You present an anecdote that has a humorous or unusual outcome. Remember, as I told you, this is similar to the stages of a skill lesson. No? First, you need to activate the background knowledge and you have to call the attention, all right? Call the attention of your students. They need to be interested, involved, curious. So one example could be present an anecdote that has a humorous or unusual outcome. For example, I presented to you this cartoon, no, of Tarzan and Jane. No? It's like a humorous style, no? And you analyze it, no? You analyze, you reckon, oh yeah, we're going to talk about it, all right? So notice here, you are involved, you're interested in what we are going to talk and listen. Then promote noticing. Incorporate students into the story with several instances of a narrative device. So here you can introduce new vocabulary, right? Maybe they have this kind of story, this anecdote, and maybe they are going to create or they are going to talk about his own anecdote. But before doing that, you have to pre-teach. No, remember that we used this term before. We need to introduce this new vocabulary, new discourse markers, maybe, or connectors or linkers. No, notice here. So you're going to incorporate students into the story with several instances of the narrative device. So this is the second stage. Call attention, promote noticing, and finally, support understanding. So asking students to underline each instance of the pattern in a transcript of the anecdote. So they need to analyze if they understand or not. No? So you ask students to underline each, for example, no, underline all the connectors that we use in this anecdote. Or underline all the collocations that we have on this anecdote. And notice they are going to analyze. You ask your students if they understand or not these kind of devices, all right, or patterns in the transcript of the anecdote. If you notice here, it's not exactly speaking, right? You are preparing your students to speak. All right. So this is the pre-speaking stage. All right. Maybe they could speak some parts, no? Because you present a humorous anecdote and they go, oh yeah, teacher, that's so funny. Oh yes, I like it. So they can talk, but it's not specifically a speaking activity, all right? So you are involving your students, you are making your students notice, be conscious about the different patterns, structures, and devices that they are going to use when they are going to speak, right? Because the purpose of this, I think, is that at the end, the next one is that they are going to produce a similar anecdote using these devices, using this structure, using this vocabulary that you presented, right? Notice here, this is called the awareness raising activities. So it is developed in 3 stages or processes. First, you need to call the attention, catch the attention of your students to be involved, interested. Then promote noticing, so they have to analyze, you know, the different structure patterns that they are going to use. And finally, here you have to support the understanding of these patterns, these devices, these structures in order to speak later. All right? So notice here this example. Now, what kind of activities can we use? One of the most activities that is used is the recordings and transcripts. All right, the recordings and transcripts. So here the results from being both scripted and performed is the lack of authenticity. When we use this kind of recordings or transcripts, for example, in the previous one, the teacher shows an anecdote, but maybe this was invented anecdote. It's not so original. No? That's why here says lack of authenticity. So a teacher must know or must acquire this skill to adapt, no, some original spoken text or written text, and adapt this one into a more didactic text, no? Because sometimes when we speak, we are going to use, as we have analyzed before, we use a lot of devices, structure or patterns different from the written one. So you need to adequate, no? You need to adequate. And it becomes in a lack of authenticity, no? Also,
at some point, I think that it doesn't feel natural, if we can call it like that.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Exactly. That's it. So as I told you before, you try to make it more natural, no? Or vice versa, no? Oh, don't forget to turn off your microphone, please. Also, it makes the conversation sound a little artificial. There is more chance that the construction will be noticed here than in the authentic conversation, no? So as your partner says, it's not so natural, it's a little artificial. But what is the purpose? That they could notice, no? Some devices, some structures, some patterns than in an authentic conversation. So, how can the teacher put the recorded data to good practical use? How, as a teachers, can put these recorded scripts or tests to a good practical use? So this is the question. So how? First, activating the background knowledge, as you told me before. Depending on the difficulty of the content, it may help to establish the topic and or the context of the speech event. No, this is a famous activity that we usually use, no, to activate the background knowledge or schemata. No, this is very important to do in our students. The other one is check gist. So play an extract or an initial segment of it and ask general gist questions. So you can put maybe a dialogue, a conversation, yeah? Or maybe a monologue, and they are going to, or you as a teacher are going to ask some general questions. No? Gist, remember, is the general idea, no? The general topic of this written or oral test. In this case, here we are using an oral test. No? You played an extract or initial segment of this and ask a general gist question. So you are starting, you're making your students to speak, no? To tell their ideas or what they understood, right? The other one is check register. It is often important to establish the register variables, particularly the tenor of the speech situation. Register, remember when we call about register, this is if it is formal or informal, no? And it depends on the person, the status, no? We have analyzed a lot of aspects related to register. So here the tenor is one of them, if you know the person or no, if it is your boss or no. So
Teacher, sorry,
yeah.
the tenor is like the definition for, I don't understand that much.
Oh yeah, the tenor, yes, we talked about it. The tenor is the person who you are speaking to.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, that was like.
Oh, don't worry, don't worry. Yeah, that's good, that's good.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. So don't forget that tenor is the person who you are speaking to, no? For example, if you speak to a friend, you use some expressions that you are not going to use if you speak to your boss. So here you have to analyze this kind of communication. So that's why here check the register. So maybe you can make your students listen to a conversation and you can ask them, so the expressions used in this conversation are formal or informal? Or maybe you make your students listen to 2 dialogues because you want them then later to perform these dialogues. So first they must recognize, remember, that's what we call awareness. They must recognize the topic, they must recognize the register. So you are going to do some activities to do that. The expressions, as I told you before in this example, no? The expressions, which expressions are used in this conversation? Are they formal or informal? If you have two conversations, for example, oh yeah, what is the difference from the first conversation and the second conversation? What kind of expressions do they use? So notice here, this is the register, all right? So don't forget, here, how can we as teacher put this recorded data to good practical use, activating the schemata, the background knowledge, checking the gist or the general topic, and checking the register. We have more. Check details. Depending to what extent the teacher wants to achieve zero uncertainty. So here you have, if you want to check a specific information about a test that they are going to listen or speak. No? Here we have some previous activities, no? Before your students speak. So here you have what extent, no? You as a teacher wants to achieve zero uncertainty. So if they are going to give some specific details or not, so in order to understand that topic they are going to talk about. Remember this. Listen and read. So you can hand out the transcript, replay the recording while learners read silently. This is another activity. They are going to listen and read a dialogue, a conversation, a monologue, an anecdote. So any kind of written or oral test. No? So you replay the recording while learners read silently. This is to be conscious. Remember, these activities are made to be conscious. Your students be conscious of what the target language is learned or acquired. Resolve doubts. So learners should be given the opportunity to ask about problems they have about the test. So they know maybe some words or they don't understand what is the topic about. No? So you must give them some opportunity to ask you. Or maybe you could promote this question, because some students are so embarrassed or nervous or shy, so they don't want to ask you. No? Maybe, and if you said that you must make the questions in English, some students are afraid. No, the teacher is going to tell me to speak in English. No. Maybe it's better not to ask. So try to promote these questions if they understand or not. If they have some doubts about the test that they are going to listen or speak, or read. Here, notice that we are going to combine here. We are going to combine. It's not specifically speaking, but the purpose of this lesson, of these activities, to develop this awareness. We're going to raise awareness in our students. Another important point in order to develop awareness in our students is focusing on selected language features or characteristics. Remember, features, so similar to say characteristics. One of them is focus on organization. To sensitize learners to the features of the spoken germs that may be unfamiliar to them, such as giving business presentations, use the transcript to identify the macrostructure of the genre. Remember that we are talking about the transcript, not the recorded transcript. So we can present our students this transcript in order to identify what is the structure, the macro structure of this genre. For example, here you have a business presentation. So what is the structure of this genre of spoken language? Remember, we have different spoken genres. So here they analyze, remember, that's why we call awareness. So they could analyze what is the structure of this genre, how to make a business presentation. Oh yeah, first, you greet your audience, then you can start giving a question to catch the attention, then the body of the message, and so on, right? So they analyze the structure of this genre. This is an example, business presentation. So if you're focusing on the organization of the spoken test or the written test, all right? The other one is to focus on sociocultural rules. So here you can prepare two versions of a cross-cultural encounter, one of which is successful and one of which is not successful. For example, you present two conversations. In the first one, a person is inviting to someone else and the other person accepts that invitation. But in the second one, no. Maybe because they don't know some costumes or values. Remember, this is related to social culture. Yeah? That's why here it says a cross-cultural encounter. Yeah? And they don't accept that kind of invitation. So we have two versions. That's why here it says one which is successful and one which is not successful. So they can compare the different expressions and devices that you need to use. And we commonly use this when we talk about, for example, functions, when we want to offer some suggestions and the other person agree, but the other person disagree, all right? And you use other expressions to give your own suggestion. So we do that. No, we as a teacher try to do these kind of activities, no? When we have two options, one a successful one and the other was not successful at all. All right, so we call this focus on sociocultural rules. Remember, focus on organization is the structure of the germ. Focus on sociocultural rules. So here you have two kinds of acceptance, if it is successful or not successful. The other one is focus on topic shift. Make a recording where the topic of the conversation changes at least 3 times. That's why we say shift. Yeah? Remember, shift is changing. So you change, notice, you change the recording at least 3 times. So the ending maybe, or the characters, or some information. No? For example, I use this kind of activity. So I present to my students a conversation as a model, and they are going to change some specific information. So I gave them some items in order to be replaced. And so they are going to change the information, maybe the ending or the middle part, no? So here they are going to change. And again, they analyze the differences, no? The differences between these 3 conversations, no? Different conversations, the different vocabulary or different discourse markers or different patterns or structures. So that's why we call, remember, awareness, to be conscious, right? This is that topic shift. Remember, topic shift. Focus on performance effects. Ask learners to use a transcript to identify features of unscripted talk that result from its real-time construction. So again, they are going to identify characteristics, features, remember, characteristics of the unscripted talk. So the real one, not the scripted talk. The result from is real-time construction. So they are going to identify. No, they are going to identify. And this is the scripted version of this conversation. How would it be the original one? So they are going to identify the real time construction with the scripted talk. So they are going to differentiate. They are going to differentiate, identify. That's why here, identify the characteristics of this unscripted talk that result from its real-time construction. Another is focus on communication strategies. This is the topic that we have been talking about. Script or improvise some conversations where speakers use a variety of communication strategies to achieve their goal. So this is very important to develop in our students, the communication strategies. No? Remember, the communication strategies is when the student has the ability to communicate, not specifically using the linguistic tools, right? Maybe he doesn't know about a word or phrases, but he uses other procedures. Remember, strategies are procedures, other procedures or activities to communicate, to keep going with the conversation. It doesn't matter if he doesn't know exactly about the words or the topic, but he uses other strategies, like avoiding the topic, circumculating, paraphrasing, asking for help, maybe. Oh, sorry, I can remember this word. Could you say a synonym or an antonym? So, but he continues talking. He doesn't, oh no, I don't know what to say. Oh no, I'm not going to speak. So this student doesn't develop this communication strategy. So it's very important to develop in our students communication strategies to get fluency, not to stop talking. Because most of the students doesn't want to talk because they say, but teacher, what I'm going to speak? I don't know what I'm going to speak. I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to use these phrases in this kind of function. No, I don't know that. So you must give them some strategies to replace. No, but don't, you have to be careful. You have to be careful. This is a tool, remember, it's like a tool that the students need to develop to,
Teacher,
yeah, tell me.
sorry to interrupt. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
don't worry, don't worry.
I got a question in my head, and it
Yeah.
was like, even if I give the ideas to the student, obviously, and she or he isn't able to still talking fluently, there's like a problem with me or with the student.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, it's because of you or because of the student? No. Here there are a lot of factors as we talked about the last class. No, sometimes it's the social factors, the environment, the background knowledge that he has or she has, also the affective factors, no, and the knowledge that he has. But you have to keep going with these kind of activities, because it's not your fault, it's not specifically his fault, no, because here you need to make your students feel better when they speak. And it's gonna be maybe sometimes for any students taking longer time, no? It's not so fast enough, no? So yeah, I'm going to do this activity and next class my students start talking. No, no, it's not so easy, it's not so easy. So you must continue doing that. If it is not at the first, the second, the third, but then the student is going to get more confidence, no? More confidence, and the teacher must give them some confidence in order to speak. That's what I told you the last class. No, sometimes we are so focused on correcting our students. No, you pronounce wrong. No, again, no, you meet the S of the present simple. So you make your students feel not so confident. So you need to make your students feel confident. This is so important, the effective factor, all right? And also to make your students develop these communication strategies. If they don't know a word, so they could say another one or use another procedure to talk, to continue talking. So this is very important. But as I told you before, you have to be careful because some students could get this strategy as a general rule and they always use it. So at the beginning, it's so helpful. But then when they advance with this language learning, so it's very important that they have to use other strategies, not to use these strategies to keep going with the conversation. So they need to use more advanced strategies, no use these ones. Yeah, this is more advisable for beginner students. Beginner students, well, you need to make them confidence and fluency when they talk. All right. So don't forget about your, don't worry about if it's your fault or it's the student's fault. No, sometimes it happens. No, I'm not teaching well. No, my students can't talk. No, I'm not teaching well. Or maybe you say, no, my students are not keen on English. No, they don't want to speak in English. No, but it's a process, remember. That's why we have to develop these stages, no? These stages. So first, you have to call attention of your students. Then they have to notice some features of the language, and then they could understand. And that's why we are talking about some activities to do that. And notice that this is the beginning, because there are two more. This is the appropriation and the autonomy. So we're just talking about the first step, no? As you could say that. The first step, that is awareness, to be conscious about the target language, all right? So don't forget, here you script or improvise some conversations using a variety of communication strategies to achieve their goal of communication, all right? The other one is focus on speech acts. Again, script or improvise a conversation which involves a number of speech acts. For example, a compliment, a response to a compliment, an invitation, apologizing. So in a conversation, you could find different functions, not just one. And that's why, for example, in some textbook, you have just, yeah, we're talking about just a suggestion, and you focus just on suggestion. No more. It's expressions related to suggestion. But sometimes it's better to combine, try to involve not just one speech act, maybe two or three, not too many too, because you're going to get your students confused about the expressions or the patterns of the structure. Or maybe you could combine 2 or 3 speech acts, no? To give more fluency to the conversation, no? Because sometimes you just get some brief conversations, no? Yeah, you accept, you refuse. Yeah, you accept, you refuse. Yeah, that's all. So we are fixed, no? We are fixed on some patterns, some structures, on some speech acts, no? Here, so it's advisable to script, or you could use the script. Remember, when we talk about the script, is the conversation that you could find in the textbooks, no? Or improvise, you create, no? You can create your own conversation and try to involve, as here says, a number of speech acts, no? Compliment, a response to a compliment, an invitation. So you combine these functions. Remember, speech acts are the functions. The other one is focus on discourse markers. Script or improvise a conversation that includes some common discourse markers such as well, so, oh, no? So these kind of conversations that the students need to use these discourse markers, no? What I mean, or I mean, no? So these are the discourse markers, no? To connect, to organize your ideas, no? To give a sequence to your speech. So we call these the discourse markers. No, we have analyzed in the previous sessions a lot of discourse markers. Focus on feature of spoken grammar, such as ellipses, head and tails, repetitions. Now notice the spoken grammar. Notice here that this is different from the written grammar. The written grammar is more formal. It's more formal. In the spoken grammar, we are going to make some changes. No, remember, can you remember when we talk about the spoken grammar and the written grammar? Could you give me some differences? One of them is here, no? Ellipses, head and tails, repetition. Any other? Can you remember the differences between the written grammar and the spoken grammar?
As Elise's teacher, I'm not like 100% an example like that is concrete. I really don't get ideas.
Ellipsis, yeah, ellipsis is when you take out. You don't say the complete structure, no? For example, when you say, oh, that sounds good, that sounds great. This is the written, no? But when you speak, you say, oh, sounds great. Oh, great, good. So you don't say the complete phrase, right? So we call this ellipses. Don't forget, ellipses, no? Head and tails and repetition, no? Oh, yes, I was talking. Yeah, I was talking. So you repeat again, no? Maybe because you forgot, oh yeah, what I wanted to say, let me see. You are repeating. So it's not the same from the written, no? The written grammar. So one of the main differences on the written grammar and the spoken grammar is that in the written grammar, we use sentences, no? But in the spoken one, we use clauses, no? Remember this, no? So here we have some difference. So we are going to give our students to analyze these differences between the spoken grammar and the written grammar. So remember, this is very important to be aware. The students need to be aware of that. It's not just to say, yeah, here you have a conversation, practice, and then, yeah, you have to do the same. But you say, what? So they are going just to repeat that. So they are not conscious about it. So you need to do some activities that make your students be conscious what they are going to talk. Not just repeating. That's why when they are going to talk, interact, they can't, because they are just used to repeat some conversations, but they are not sure, they are not conscious what they are going to say. So this is very important. Remember, the first step in order to make our students to speak is that they need to be conscious about what they are going to speak. All right. So here we analyze different aspects that make our students to be aware, to be conscious of what they are going to speak. The other one is focus on vocabulary. Use a transcript of naturally occurring talk to demonstrate a high proportion of high frequency vocabulary that is characteristic of a spoken language. So here you can use a transcript or a conversation. You can create also, and you can say to your students, no, here you have some words, and these words are so used for native speakers, so these expressions are used for native speakers, and they use it a lot. No? So that's why here we say that high frequency, no? High frequency vocabulary. That is characteristic of the spoken language. So they are analyzing, notice, oh yeah, it's interesting. So native speakers use this expression a lot. All right, yeah, so I'm going to do the same. So they are captured, remember? So notice here. So they are they are involved. And it's not like you present the conversation, yeah, practice in pairs and go to the front of the class. That's it. Yeah, they spoke. No. So they need to have this step, this process, all right? The other one is using live listening. If you notice, the previous ones are related to a scripted test or imaginary test, no? That the teacher creates. But the other one is the real one. Real, that's why here says live listening. Listening to the teacher is not a recording, it's not from an audio from the textbook or a guest speaker. Teacher can adjust her talk according to the perception of the learner's level of understanding, and the learner can interact to ask questions, clarify details, and solicit repeats. Now, so here they are going to listen in real interaction to the teacher, or maybe a native speaker. No? For example, we talked about this the last session. No? You could invite, if you know a person who is native, you could invite, and you can make a plan, semi-plan. Remember that we talked about when we made this type of conversations, plan, semi-plan, or unplanned conversation. So you can create that. You can ask a person to come to your class, could be a native speaker, so they are interested, they are involved. Notice you call the attention of your students. No, it's so important to know. This is live listening. To raise awareness of future of the spoken language, that technique that works well is to combine the advantages of the live listening with the recorded listening. and make a recording while speaking live. No? So you must combine, remember, you must combine the recording listening and the live listening. No, that's why here says listening, because you're going to interact. No? So you're going to listen to your teacher, to your partners, or maybe from an audio from the textbook, no? Or from the internet, no? As you want. And then they are going to respond and answer about it. No? So you must combine. No? So that's why here says a recording while speaking live. And finally, we have this one that is noticing the gap activities. Activities aim at raising awareness of the differences. Remember, gap is the space, the difference between the learner's current competence and the target competence. So learners can get important messages about their current state of proficiency by attending to their own output and by making comparison between their output and that of other ones. All right? So they are going to compare. No? They are going to compare their output with other people's output. Could be from the teacher, could be from another student, or from a native speaker. No, you have the opportunity to invite a native speaker, so they are going to compare. That's why we call these activities noticing the gap activities. So they are going to analyze their performance with the other people's performance and get some characteristics, no? Some characteristics of the other performance to integrate it into their own performance. Learners will only notice certain features of the L2 when they have reached the developmental stage in which they are ready to notice them. So probably the most effective gap noticing is that which is initiated by learners themselves. No, but as a teacher, we must promote this noticing gap. And remember, we call this activity noticing the gap. So they are going to analyze their performance to other people's performance, all right? So here you have the perform, they observe, and they re-perform. And so they do the activity again. After observing other performances, so they do the same again. And we usually use this as a task-based approach. So you give some tasks to your students, and they are going to watch or observe other students' performance, and they had the opportunity to redo it again, to re-perform it again. No? That's why here says, no? To re-perform that activity, that task. For example, here you have in the perform, students perform a speaking task with their current ability. So they do the task. No, you give your students some tasks to be developed in the class, not related to the speaking skill. Then students observe skilled practitioners performing the task. Students note the features they would like to incorporate. So for example, no, as a teacher, you call some students who have a better fluency, for example, and you said to your students, so observe, listen carefully to your partners, and notice what they are going to use, and they are going to analyze. No, oh yeah, my partner says that, but I didn't use that. Yeah, I'm going to use this expression too. Okay, so notice here, they are going then to perform the original task or maybe a similar one, attempting to incorporate the target features. So the features that they observe with other people performance. So this is called the task-based approach. No? So here you give your students some tasks. They are going to do the activity, the task, the speaking task. Then they observe other people performance and they have the opportunity to do it again, to do that task again, or maybe a similar one, right? They incorporate, notice, they incorporate these target futures, all right? Okay, so here you have this related to the awareness raising activities. Remember, today we talk about just the first process, that is the awareness. The next session, we're going to talk about the other two, that is the appropriation and autonomy activities. Remember that we are going to change a little bit the names of the stages of the speaking lesson, no? As I told you before, we know the general three stages of a lesson, a skill lesson, is the pre, while, and post. So we're going to change just a little bit, no? We call this pre as awareness. Then we have the other that is the appropriation. And finally, we have the autonomy activities, all right? So today we have finished talking about this part of awareness. Next session, as I told you, we are going to talk about the appropriation activities and the autonomy activities. All right?
Okay, teacher.
All right.
Sure, teacher. Thank you.
Okay. Please don't forget to send your tasks to the platform. I was checking the last time. Some of you are okay. Next week, I'm gonna give you a list who are sending your task. Yeah. But some of you are not sending, some of you are not complete. You send some of the tasks, but not all, and others no, so be careful with this, please. Next week, I'm gonna give you a list who are the people who sent the task, no? Because maybe you're worried also about if the teacher received my task or not. And so next week, I'm gonna give you this list, so the people who mentioned is the task that I received, all right? Okay.
All right. Perfect, teacher.
Okay.
All right.
That's all for today. See you next session. Don't miss the next section, yeah? Because we're going to talk about the other two processes to develop in our students the speaking skill. No, this is very, very important to develop in our students. All right. So bye-bye. Take care a lot.
Take care, teacher.
Thank you, teacher. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye. Sunday. Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you. The same to you.
Sure.
All right. Bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, teacher.